doubt it, but let's wait. Yes, I know that part. But here I still had nothing. So maybe refresh it. Oh, okay, so now we have something. So checking on the audio, 1 2 1 2. But here I still have nothing. Maybe refresh it. Oh, okay, so now we have something. The focus is horrible. Checking on the audio, 1 2 1 2. So for the focus, it should be autofocus really, because I don't have the energy to. It is already on auto, but for some reason it's pretty blurry. Maybe it's because the quality of the video is low. Let's change that. Oh, there we go. That's much better. All right, good. Making progress here. All right, so let's get the link into Skype. All right, so fuck off Skype. Okay, so I can't get out of here now. Great, thanks a lot. But it should work. Okay, so I have to push. Making progress here. Alright, so let's. That part. Yeah, but I'm trying to click here, you see? Skype. Alright, I got the chat going. That's good. It's actually great here. Okay, start the stream 2 minutes ago. That's fine. Where is Facebook? There it is. Age of Reason. Okay, I really have to set this up. Yeah, that thing. Indeed. I don't have it here though. I'm gonna go get it, I guess. Unless there is one copy here, but I don't think so. Okay, that's fine. Nope. Then I'll go get it. Alright. Let's put it here for now. I have to fix here. So it's kind of like that. But I have to check. Alright, so this is pretty good actually. Yeah. Move closer. Alrighty, mic. Okay, so if people are watching, I do apologize. I mean, I haven't done this in a while, so it just takes time to set up. Next time I'll be flying. All right, so let's get that link over there. Should be good enough. I'm just gonna copy paste that. Okay, go to home. Okay, it's still uploading. It's incredible how slow Facebook has become recently. Just takes forever. Okay, I should be on, so I'm gonna let it run a little bit for people to join in, since they just basically see the link. If you have any kind of questions, then feel free to ask in the chat. Facebook has become recently. I'm checking that the audio is working. It seems to be fine. If you detect any technical issues, please let me know, because I don't want to waste my time recording something without audio. That would be the worst case scenario. I don't really have any backups going. For people who are like around there and who are wondering what this is about, so this is Age of Reason. So this is the show, and I have a Facebook page associated with that as well. Mainly now I talk about climate change because I just feel it's the most important issue of the time. But there are occasionally some like atheist articles that I'm going to cover, etc. There's still things going on besides climate change. All right, so just give it a minute and then I'm going to start. I have everything set up for today, hopefully. Like I said, I haven't done this in a while, so it's almost like everything new. Yeah, well that's because this button is not on. There we go. It looks a lot better on the iPad than it looks here, for sure. It's interesting, actually. Okay, well, I'm gonna start and then we'll see how it goes. Alright, so just fix this a little bit. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that screen is a little bit distracting there. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, and welcome to Age of Reason. Welcome back to Age of Reason for those who are joining us again. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done since I last did a show. There's many reasons for that. First of all, I was just busy writing things and I was working on my digital art. I was doing a lot of research for my writing as well, so I just didn't have the time to kind of juggle around with all of that. Just before I start, I'd like to promote my book again, Beyond the Obscure. Please get it. It's a great read. It's kind of like a film noir story, psychological horror thriller. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually trying to write a prequel to it, which is kind of slow going, but hey, that's life. I always say that if I was a generic writer, I could write a book in a week. Okay, that's simple. Most people who are hanging out on places like Fiverr, for example, that's what they do. They write very generic stories, they get paid, and that's, they move on to the next generic story. But I'm not like that at all. So anyway, so today I'm going to talk about the page briefly. So what this show and the Facebook page Age of Reason is about is mostly to talk about climate change, okay? Because I feel that this is the most pressing concern that we have. People like Noam Chomsky, they say there are basically two threats to the planet. One is nuclear war, and second is climate change. Well, in my opinion, we'd have to be like really, really dumb. And I don't put it past people, but I think we have to be extremely, extremely dumb to start a nuclear war, World War III. But climate change, though, that, I was watching the SpaceX launch a few days ago, and they were all ready to go, and it got canceled because of bad weather. So even powerful, intelligent men like Elon Musk cannot control the weather, and that's very important. So let's try today is going to be a little bit different. Usually I cover an article or two, but today I'm just going to try to catch up because obviously I haven't been, this is the first show of 2020 actually, so there's a lot of stuff that happened. So first I saw this meme, and this probably was posted about 3 days into 2020. So, like a lot of people say that, hey, my 2019 was horrible, so I'm looking forward to 2020. And then, so within 3 days or so, we got World War III trending because Trump killed that Iranian general, and everybody was kind of like in an uproar over that. Australia was on fire. That's very true. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And of course, the coronavirus, which I'm also going to talk in a little bit. So this is kind of an important one here to set the context of what I'm trying to do. I recently posted a cement buffer. If people don't know what that is, it's kind of like a rotating cement thing, like to make it nice and even. Sometimes if you let go, it starts to rotate by itself, so it does look like a machine kind of revolting against the owner. It's pretty funny, but it's absolutely like there's no essence to it. There's nothing for the mind in there whatsoever. So I posted that on a group, on an active group in Facebook, and you can see that a lot of people liked it. So I understand. People on the internet, they want memes, they want some ridiculous nonsense because that's what sells right now. So if I posted something serious though, about a serious topic, maybe I would get, I don't know, 8 to 10 likes or so. That's it. That's how people are engaged. So personally, I am very pessimistic about the future because of this. Because people just gravitate towards nonsense and not towards where they should be gravitating to. So this is a picture, this is a satellite photo that was taken, I think, in January this year. Well, this is Australia, and it's on fire. So there were fires everywhere. And this picture here, this was posted on CNN. This is a real picture. I didn't blow it out or anything like that. What you see here is actually smoke from the fires. And it's indeed very difficult to see anything through there, but we can clearly see that it's a beach. And despite all that smoke in the air, you can imagine, of course, it's very harmful to people as well, but they still went to the beach. So I just want to remind you that this is before the coronavirus, okay? So before the coronavirus, people were already dumb. The coronavirus didn't make people dumber. This picture, though, is taken during the coronavirus outbreak. This is a picture from France. So what France did is they locked down most of the country, although my parents live there and they tell me a different story, but they live in a very kind of small village. So maybe the rules in small villages are different from rules in big cities, which would make sense. Anyway, so the government shut down places like public places, etc., and people stayed at home. But instead of staying at home, they started going out to parks. Hey, free vacation time, right? They completely misunderstood the entire point of trying to avoid other people, etc. So this picture here, I'm not sure exactly where it's from. It could be Florida. I don't remember honestly. Again, the same thing. So in the States, we see the same thing. Many places started to shut down. Many politicians started to warn about social distancing, which we really should call physical distancing, because nobody is forbidding you to socialize on the internet, etc. What we don't want you to do is to be in physical contact with other people, because even if you are not very sick, or you think you're not sick, you might carry the virus, and you might carry it on to some very vulnerable groups out there, and eventually people might die because of you. So I don't want that kind of blood on my hands. If you do, that's your choice, but I don't. So I posted here a comment. I basically said that just shut down the beaches. I don't see the problem. Like, if people are dumb, if people like don't listen to authority, then the government just has to come in and stamp their authority on it. So what I got in response is a classic 101 response from this guy who doesn't really have an American name, really. He says, "Repeat after me, we are free." So this is kind of a get out of jail card for the idiots out there. So they immediately start screaming, "Freedom, freedom." What I said in response to that is that, again, I repeated what happened in France, that people started to going out and hanging out thinking that they got a free holiday when they should have been staying at home and practicing, physical distancing. The thing about freedom, though, specifically, is that it's a double-edged sword. What I mean by that is, for example, if you take smoking, so a smoker will think that he has the freedom to smoke anywhere he wants. But I think I have the freedom to not inhale the smoke and get cancer through secondhand smoking. Okay? So who's the winner here? Well, you have to go in the favor of health here. So in this case, I would be right, because I don't want to be sick because somebody else is basically causing harm. That's what it's about. So once you start saying, I'm free to go around, no, if you're sick and you go out there and you contaminate other people, you're absolutely not free. Somebody has to control you. If you can't control yourself, then the government has to control you. Some people, that's the only way they learn. This was, I don't know, this is something else posted there. So, this probably comes from a kind of right-wing website. They made this funny meme saying that for some reason the left people, they protest everything, like the expensive healthcare, the prison system, that Americans live paycheck to paycheck, which is true. But what real Americans protest, though, is we need a haircut. We have no sports on television. We can't go to the beach. The world is ending, right? So again, during the pandemic, I just want to bring you back a little bit. I think this happened back in January. What happened was that there was a cruise ship in Japan, where I live. They had many infected people on that boat, of course, because you're in a tight space and it's a great environment for virus to spread. So what some countries did is that they started to fly those people back to their country so they can treat them back home. And this picture comes from the UK. We see, a convoy of buses, and if you look closely, the driver is not wearing a mask. So there you go. I mean, I'm sorry, but you talk about responsibility. How about the lack of responsibility? How about this guy not wearing a mask? And this is kind of a related thing. So I've noticed this trend on CNN recently. It's very kind of disturbing and strange at the same time. Here is a question of, my kids don't want to wear a mask. What should I do? So there's an answer there, and basically you can read it by yourself. You can pause the video, go ahead. But in a nutshell, what it says here is that you need to make the masks kind of fun. Maybe buy some kind of mask with a design, or make the kid draw some picture on it or something like that. Okay, I don't understand, why do we need to take advice from 5-year-olds? I thought we're the adults in the room. I thought we're supposed to move things forward, and yet we give way too much power to these kids who, I'm sorry, but they don't know the world yet, okay? They really don't. So this never happened when I was a kid. This would never ever be an issue when I was growing up. If I'm told that I need to wear a mask to make people safer, I wear a mask. I shut up and I wear a mask. So I don't see the issue here that we need to treat these little children like some kind of exotic animals. Oh, don't scare them or they'll fly away. Reminder, there's about 8 billion of us out there, okay? So we're not rare. We're not a rare species. We're not an endangered species yet. This was actually a related thing here, so that's why I put it together. Again, how do I make sure, this again from CNN, by the way, how do I make sure I'm not raising a racist child? Okay, well, here's what I'll say to this. I worked as a teacher, as a language teacher in South Korea. I worked in China. I worked in Japan. More or less, it's the same, because kids are kids everywhere. Despite what they say, you know, Japanese kids will sit down and be very obedient. Well, maybe in a public school it is, but once you go to these kind of after school programs, they go wild just like anywhere else. So the main problem I had as a teacher is that not all, okay, because I don't like to speak in absolutes, but most parents, they left the parenting thing for me or to other teachers. So instead of raising the kid themselves, they leave it to the teacher. So I had to basically like teach their children morals and values as often as possible. Like, don't do this because it's bad. This should be education at home. This should have been finished before they step into my classroom. So again, I really kind of don't understand where we're going right now with this whole thing. Parenting right now sucks. Instead of like talking to your kid and, you know, satisfying their curiosity, what happens most of the time is that, hey, shut up, here's the phone, go away and play on the phone, or here's an iPad, go away, play a game, play a stupid game on the iPad, just leave me alone. But if that's your attitude as a parent, then why in the heck do you have children? Surely you must understand that there is a responsibility if you have kids. But I feel like a lot of people really don't feel that responsibility whatsoever. I'm going to finish today by talking about climate change because, again, like I said, this is, for me personally, it's the most important issue that we have right now. So I'm, again, very pessimistic when it comes to that because a lot of reports say like, oh, by 2050 we'll have that, by 2060 we'll have that. I'm actually afraid of the next 10 years. Forget 2050, I'm worried about 2030. So this graph here shows the global CO2 emissions by region, but what I really want to point out here is that there is this huge increase after 1950. So World War II is over, so the baby boomers took over. Hey, let's make as many babies as we can, and of course there was an associated boom with production as well. So more people equals more consumption. It's very straightforward. And at the same time, more people equals more emissions because, you know, everybody wants a car, everybody wants to eat meat. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people. You know, they want to enjoy electricity at home, etc. So, of course, we're all responsible for emissions. Some countries more than others. But this big jump here, okay, from 1950, now we're in uncharted territory, really. We're way up there. So when we talk about climate change, there is a scientific consensus. You can go to skepticalscience.net, I think. Let me check. Skepticalscience.com, actually. Okay, so skepticalscience.com, go to that website. They debunk a lot of climate change myths that are floating out there. So I always say that go check out that website first, and then if you have any problems, come here. Don't just come to this page and start saying crap like, oh, it's a liberal hoax or it's a Chinese hoax. You've done no research. You're just talking out of your ass here, okay? So do some research, and then if you have any problems, come and ask more questions. So there is a scientific consensus among climate scientists. That's very important, again, to notice that, because if I want my teeth fixed, for example, I don't go to a plumber. I go to a dentist. If I want to be good at sports, I would go to a sports trainer. I would not go necessarily, to my dentist in this case. And it's the same with climate change. If I want climate change news, I go to climate scientists. Again, not dentists, because technically dentist is sometimes listed as a scientist too. He's a doctor, right? So there is scientific consensus amongst the scientists, but amongst the US population, there is a lot of debate. And this debate happens because fossil fuel companies spend a lot of money on misinformation, and then they just rely on people's emotions. Like, people's emotions boil over, and they go online and they spread nonsense. So in this map, what it shows is that the estimated percentage of adults who believe, most scientists. So this map shows if people or not believe that the climate scientists are in agreement that climate change is happening. And here you see that only 52%, just a small majority of people believe that indeed there is an agreement among scientists. That's a very worrying map, by the way. This map is different. This is just kind of more generally asking, okay, do you think that global warming is happening? And here we have a 67% of agreement, so it's better than the 52 before. You can see that a lot of people living on the coasts are more worried than the people living deeper in the country. And of course, that's for good reason, because a lot of coastal cities will be flooded in the future, in the near future. So of course, these people worry a lot. That's just natural. Finally, this map shows, they ask the question here, do you think that climate change will be harmful to you personally? And here, only 42% say that, yes, it will be harmful to me personally. So I just want to comment on this map very quickly. A lot of people don't understand climate change, I think. They think that it's just watching these, pretty graphs of temperatures going up and down, and that's it. So sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. It's basically like they confuse the climate and the weather as well. They don't understand the difference between the two. But climate change is actually an umbrella term. Climate change is a bit of everything taken into one. You can build a climate model based on these variables. So for example, it's the currents of oceans because they're changing. It's the currents of winds because they're changing because of us. It's the natural disasters, coastal erosion, farming, commercial farming, emissions from that. It's really a lot of things. It's not just the temperature, okay? So, for example, if there's a drought somewhere in America, if there's a severe drought somewhere, that means that there is maybe almost no food production for that year. So that means that people there might have problems from malnutrition or hunger. Not temperature, okay? Temperature is temperature. Let's leave it aside. So this one here, actually, that's just to confirm what I said a second ago, is that indeed there is an agreement among climate scientists. 97%, at least 97% agree that climate change is happening. But there are some politically motivated groups that use misleading tactics and logical fallacies, by the way, to try to convince the public that there's a lot of disagreement among scientists. However, the scientific research has found that among climate scientists, there is virtually no disagreement that humans are causing climate change. Okay. There's a couple of graphs here. These slides come from Yale University. This is from the Yale Climate for Yale Center for Climate Change Communication, I think it's called. Okay, so here what it says is that what is your climate science literacy? Okay, what is it like? What do you know? So burning oil and fossil fuels produce CO2. Note that only 50% of the people here in the survey, and this is a pretty good survey, by the way, it's done just about 2 years ago, only half of the people said, yep, it's indeed producing CO2. So again, half of the people don't even know that as a byproduct we emit CO2. That's kind of shocking. Greenhouse gases act like a blanket around the planet, trapping the heat in there. Only a third of the people said, yes, that's the case. Only a third. So specifically CO2 traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere. Again, only a third said yes. Industrial activities, okay, so some of them are not true and some people said it's true. But anyway, these are very kind of shocking statistics, really. I'm not surprised, but it's just annoying to me. So here, another one, we have evidence that climate change is happening. So this is divided into 6 categories. So for example, if you take the alarmed people and the concerned people, these are usually people who are well versed in the topic. I'm in that group myself. And we share articles about climate change. We talk to others about climate change, etc. So usually the percentage there is very high. Like we know that it's happening and why it's happening, and we know about the logical fallacies about it, etc. But the interesting part here is to notice about the cautious and the disengaged people. So that kind of, to compare, is like we have Republicans, we have liberals, and then we have, independents, but we have a lot of people who are just non-voters. And that's, in a nutshell, who the cautious and disengaged are, especially the disengaged. These are people who lack the knowledge, they lack the motivation, they just live this kind of carefree existence, and they don't really care about anything like that. So this slide illustrates it even better. So this talks about low ability and low motivation with the audience. So even amongst the alarmed, which very much annoys me because really the number should be much lower, I have trouble understanding news about climate change. About a quarter said, yep, it's too hard for me, I don't understand, it's difficult. Amongst the dismissive, it's about a fifth of the people. So these are kind of like the fringes, okay? But the most of the people are again in the center. The disengaged, 77% said, yep, it's too hard for me, I probably don't want to even touch it. And then the next line is, I don't like to hear about climate change. So here you find what you expect to find, is that the dismissive have 72%, so nearly 3/4 of them, they don't even want to hear about climate change. They know for them it's a hoax, okay? So of course they don't want to hear anything about climate change. So this one is a little bit interesting. This is an exercise you can do at home, actually. Is you can just close your eyes and ask yourself the question, so climate change and health specifically, so what kind of problems will I have health-wise from the impacts of climate change? So probably for a lot of people, what jumps to mind straight is, dirty coal plant equals lung cancer, which is true, or asthma. A lot of the people who live right next to the coal plants, and let's be honest there, a lot of these people who live in those places are poor because the land value near polluting coal plant, etc., is very low. So it's good to buy a house there, but you're poor. That's very important to say. The poor are the first affected by climate change. Again, I know that some Americans don't care, but if you go to some Pacific Island nations, they basically have this tiny island of people, and because of the rising of the oceans, they sometimes have to raise their buildings, etc. But you can imagine that these buildings are not made to withstand any kind of major disaster. So the next time there's a hurricane, these people are directly at risk. In America, it's a little bit same in some places where they have tornadoes, for example. You see like these bunch of houses destroyed, and they're really like poor construction, cheap housing. That's why they get destroyed. A proper like brick house will be damaged, yes, but not completely blown away. Anyway, so here we have lung disease, and it dominates the answers, but we also have skin disease like skin cancer. Allergies, that's one people don't talk a lot about. Heat-related issues like heat strokes, I expected that to be a little bit higher because, for example, in Japan, we have extreme summers. Temperatures are over 40 degrees Celsius. There's like humidity, which is like 90 to 100% sometimes. It's absolutely unbearable. Many older people die from heat strokes in the summer because old people, they don't sometimes notice. I don't know, it's like their body is getting too old, so they don't notice that it gets hot outside. So instead of using the air conditioner, they use the fan. But the fan doesn't cool the air down. The fan just moves air around. That's all it does. So then they get heat strokes and they die. Vector-borne tropical and infectious diseases. That's an interesting one. Just coming back to the COVID-19 for a second, there is a certain portion of people who believe that COVID-19 came as a result of deforestation in that part of China. So what happened is that they basically burned the forests, and the bats that live in those forests, they have to like move around. So, and of course, yeah, it's true that in China they kind of eat everything that walks. That's largely true. Again, because of poverty in a lot of cases. But yeah, the diseases is a big part, okay? So imagine like if you have a big ass hurricane and COVID-19 in the same area. So now all these people who have to evacuate, they're going to go out there to shelters and they're going to contaminate everyone in that shelter. So it's a huge risk, yes. Injuries and death, and malnutrition and hunger. Again, malnutrition and hunger, I expected it to be a little bit higher because the pressure that people put on the land is immense right now. It's not just about food, but it's also about water safety. And finally, just to finish off, because it seems like Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee for presidential election. Not a fan, by the way. The only thing that he always seems to kind of repeat is that basically he's not Trump. So he's not Trump, therefore people should vote for him. That's it. Nothing else. No issues. Forget Medicare for all. Forget like living wage. Forget the prison reform, immigration. Forget all of that. I'm not Trump. That's it. That's my only issue. So I made this funny meme. I put myself, well, I'm not Trump either, but I love science. And if people vote for me, I will definitely promote science and promote space exploration, etc. So, yeah. Well, that's it for today. That's all I wanted to cover. There's of course more things that happened, but next week I'm gonna try to have Jeremy on the show, and we're gonna talk a bit more about these things. But for today, that's all. Just kind of nice and easy. I hope everybody's staying safe. Please remember that the COVID-19 is far from over. Yes, there are places reopening, but I am kind of very skeptical about that because, again, the rates of infections are still very, very high. And one of my friends said that during the Spanish flu, back after World War I, the disease had 3 peaks. So right now we had 1 peak, more or less. In most countries already passed it, but it wouldn't be surprising to have a second and third wave. So people relax, and then it creeps back in. So that's very dangerous. I hope people are staying safe. And I'm going to try to do this more often now. I'm just going to start today. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. That's all. I'm here. I'm just going to leave it on for a little bit. If people have any questions or anything like that, then go ahead. I will, of course, drop all the links to the information later in the descriptions of the posts. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for today. Just nice and easy kind of summary of what's happening. So again, I just repeat again. So if you have any kind of questions about climate change or anything like that, just go ahead. I'm just leaving it a little bit. If you have anything to ask, then go ahead. I will try to answer. I don't claim to be a super expert, but I do know quite a bit on the topic. Or if you just have any general questions about the show, etc. Or even if you pop in to say hi, everything is okay. I'm talking about the YouTube thing. So the YouTube, usually when I post the link, you have to click on it, so then it opens up in YouTube, and there's a chat there. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you have, because I don't check the page so much, but the chat, I have it on the next screen here, so I can see. Okay, well, since there are no questions, I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna try to do this more often. So next week, I'm gonna try to have Jeremy on. We're gonna chat a little bit about the events, and I have a few questions as well. Just if he's in the ballpark of certain things that I'm doing on the show right now. So we'll see. I'm also trying to interview some people out there, mostly scientists, but it's very difficult. Of course, they're very busy people, and I don't really have a huge show. I think it's a good show, but it doesn't have an established huge audience, so it's very difficult. But I will try. Anyway, so on that note, a farewell. Till next time.